January 11th, 1945, 6:17 a.m. over the Pacific, near the Philippine Sea. The horizon blazed faint orange, fractured by low-hanging clouds that drifted lazily across a churning sea. The air smelled faintly of salt and engine oil, carried by the persistent wind that raked across the fuselage of the P-38 Lightning. In the cockpit, Major Richard Bong adjusted his oxygen mask, the leather straps biting lightly into his face. His hands, encased in worn leather gloves, hovered over the throttle and control stick. Every instrument hummed, the needles quivering like tiny hearts. Beneath him, the vast expanse of ocean stretched endlessly, deceptively calm, while the Pacific raged in silence, concealing dangers beneath its mirror-like surface. The sun crept higher, casting jagged shadows across the metallic body of the Lightning. Bong's squadron, 2 other P-38s, patrolled in a tight V formation, wings slicing through the clouds with surgical precision. Communication was sparse, a few clipped words over the crackling radio. Discipline was survival. Ahead, the sky seemed empty, yet every veteran pilot knew the stillness was a lie. Somewhere, invisible as smoke, Japanese Zero fighters were already hunting, their keen eyes scanning the ocean for any glint of American metal. Bong's mind raced through pre-flight calculations even as he tried to calm his heartbeat. Today's mission was reconnaissance, yet the threat of interception had always hung like a guillotine above the Pacific. Below, tiny islands dotted the sea, their cliffs rising like jagged teeth. Bong remembered the last engagement near Leyte. Flak slicing the sky like a razor, his wingman screaming over the radio. He clenched his jaw and focused on the task. Fly, observe, survive, and strike if opportunity demanded. The P-38 responded to his touch, nimble and hungry, its twin engines thrumming like twin beasts eager to fight. The radio crackled. A faint voice, Lieutenant, anxious, reported radar contacts approximately 20 miles ahead. Bong's eyes narrowed. A glance at his gauges confirmed fuel levels, ammunition, engine temperature. All optimal. He breathed slowly, listening to the roar of his engines, the rhythmic beating of his own pulse. His mind was clear, a razor-edge focus honed over months of relentless combat. Minutes stretched into tense silence. Then, as if the world held its breath, the formation spotted movement on the horizon. Shimmering shapes, glinting metallic in the early sun, sliced through the clouds. Japanese aircraft, at least a dozen, Zeros climbing in deadly precision. Bong's grip tightened on the control stick. Every muscle coiled like a spring, every instinct screaming. "Engage at your discretion," he muttered into the radio, voice calm, betraying none of the storm brewing inside. His squadron mirrored his composure, their shadows flickering across the ocean below. The enemy advanced in a wedge formation, disciplined, deadly. Bong could see the glint of their cockpit glass, the glimmer of their machine guns, the artistry of their aerial formation honed through years of war. The wind tore at the P-38 as Bong banked sharply to intercept. Clouds whipped past the canopy, blinding one instant, revealing another the next. His eyes darted from enemy to horizon, tracking speed, distance, angles, fuel, wind, all simultaneously. He imagined himself as a predator, circling above water and sky, calculating every potential strike. Time dilated. Each second felt like an eternity. The roar of engines became a constant, deafening heartbeat. The scent of burning fuel, metal, and anticipation filled the cockpit. Bong's lips pressed into a thin line. One false move, one delayed reaction, and the ocean below would become a watery grave. Then, as if the Pacific itself had whispered a warning, the first Zero veered off formation, almost lazily but precise, ready to probe to test. Bong didn't flinch. He calculated the vector, anticipated the maneuver, and adjusted. The first burst of gunfire shattered the morning stillness. Tracers ripped through the sky, a chaotic web of death and defiance. Bong's P-38 shuddered as bullets skimmed the fuselage, sparks flying off the metal. His heart didn't skip. It roared. Ahead, 1-0 broke rank, presenting a fleeting silhouette against the sun. Bong's finger found the trigger. The nose gun spat fire, and the enemy plane shuddered violently, smoke trailing, diving toward the sea. A split second of triumph. Then reality slammed back. The rest of the Zeros reacted instantly, peeling toward him with lethal precision. Bong's squadron tried to hold formation, but the sky had transformed into chaos, a deadly ballet where a single misstep meant death. The roar of engines, the crackle of tracers, and the smell of gunpowder filled the cockpit. Bong dove, climbed, rolled, spiraled. Every maneuver precise, practiced deadly, and in that dizzying maelstrom, he realized one fact. This mission would not end as routine reconnaissance. Today, the Pacific would witness the fury and skill of one of America's finest. The sky was no longer empty. It was a battlefield, and Bong was about to make history. The first Zero spiraled downward, smoke trailing like ink in water, disappearing into the vast Pacific. Bong didn't celebrate. There was no time. The remaining enemy planes converged, a living storm of death above the endless sea. The sun glared off their wings, blinding, taunting, as tracers streaked toward his cockpit. Each burst of gunfire demanded an immediate decision. Dive, roll, fire, evade. Bong's hands moved with instinctive precision, guiding the P-38 through impossible angles. The twin engines roared in harmony with the thrum of his heart. He dipped sharply, rolling over the first attacker, feeling the air pressure shift like invisible hands pushing against him. The Zero tried to follow, its engine shrieking in protest. Bong's fingers danced across the trigger. The nose guns erupted, spitting fire. The enemy plane shuddered violently, bullets tearing through metal, smoke curling from the engine cowling. It flipped, spiraled, and vanished toward the ocean below. 2 down, 5 to go. Bong's eyes scanned the sky, calculating angles, distances, velocities, thinking faster than a human should. The Zeros adjusted their formation, closing in like a predator pack. Bong banked sharply, weaving through the air with lethal grace. His wingman, Lieutenant Henderson, fired from behind, taking down one more Zero. Tracers crisscrossed like deadly threads, bullets humming past their ears. Clouds churned above, sun flaring, glinting on every metallic surface. The aerial battlefield was chaos made tangible. Bong's P-38 surged forward, diving on another enemy fighter. He felt the familiar kick of adrenaline as the nose gun spat fire. The Zero burst into flames, rolling helplessly toward the sea. Bong pulled up sharply, narrowly avoiding a second attacker. His plane vibrated from the close passes, each maneuver testing the limits of both machine and man. Smoke filled the sky from damaged enemy planes, punctuating the blue canvas like brushstrokes of destruction. Bong's eyes burned from the intensity, yet his focus never wavered. He could see the fine details, the glint of the Zero's canopy, the subtle shift in wing angles, the tiny wisp of smoke signaling engine failure. Every detail mattered. Every second counted. A sudden burst of enemy fire grazed the P-38's fuselage, sparks flying, metal screeching. Bong felt the vibration through the controls, but kept his calm. Precision was survival. Another Zero flanked from the left, guns blazing. Bong executed a split-S maneuver, pulling his plane into a tight, twisting descent, forcing the enemy above him. Tracers whistled past, too close for comfort. Bong fired. The enemy plane wobbled, smoke trailing. With a final, spiraling motion, it fell from the sky. 4 down, 3 to go. The remaining Zeros broke formation slightly, wary now, but determination burned in their eyes. They circled, probing, waiting for any mistake. Bong could almost hear their calculation. He's only one man. Can he survive? His heart pounded. Sweat stung his eyes beneath the mask. His mind remained razor-sharp. Every movement was anticipation, calculation, a deadly chess game at 300 miles per hour. The ocean far below glimmered deceptively peaceful, a silent witness to carnage above. Suddenly, a Zero dove directly at him, gun spitting death. Bong rolled sharply, his plane shuddering, feeling the air pressure like fists against his chest. He fired in a brief, controlled burst. Sparks ignited along the enemy fuselage. The plane tumbled, then plunged, smoke trailing into the ocean. 5 down. 2 to go. Bong's wingman radioed, voice tense. Major, you're cutting through them like a storm. Bong didn't respond. Focus demanded silence. Each second brought new threats. The remaining Zeros coordinated, attempting to trap him. Bong's eyes flicked to the sun's glare, then to the approaching enemy. Time slowed, every movement hyperreal. He banked, rolled, and climbed, feeling the P-38 respond as an extension of his own body. Another Zero attacked from above, engines screaming. Bong anticipated, twisting the plane midair, lining up his shot. Tracers streaked the sky, piercing the morning light. The enemy plane erupted in flames, falling in a perfect arc toward the ocean below. 6 down. 1 left. Bong's chest tightened. The final enemy plane circled, cautious now, calculating. Its pilot could see the devastation left behind, the smoking wreckage of comrades. He banked, waited, eyes locked on the American ace. Bong's finger hovered over the trigger. His breath was measured, heart synchronized with the hum of twin engines. Every movement mattered. Then, in a sudden instant, the last Zero dove. Bong rolled with precision, tracing its path, waiting for the perfect angle. The cockpit seemed to narrow, world condensed into metal, sky, sun, and enemy. The final burst of gunfire tore through the air. The Zero spiraled violently, smoke trailing, falling like a puppet cut from its strings. Silence fell, except for the roar of engines and the ocean far below. Bong banked slowly, scanning the horizon. 7 enemy planes destroyed in a single engagement. A rare feat, even in the chaos of war. His hands trembled slightly, the adrenaline slowly ebbing, leaving awe and exhaustion in its wake. Below, the ocean shimmered peacefully, hiding the chaos it had witnessed moments before. Bong's squadron reformed, wings slicing through the morning sky. Victory was theirs, yet the battle had changed something in him. The thrill of survival, the weight of destruction, and the haunting realization that death had brushed close, too close, lingered in the air like smoke. Somewhere, in the distance, more enemy aircraft might be approaching. But for now, the sky belonged to Major Richard Bong. History had been made, yet the war was far from over. The roar of engines faded into a tense hum as Major Richard Bong guided his P-38 over the Pacific's endless blue expanse. Smoke from the 7 down Zeros lingered faintly in the distance, curling like dark fingers over the waves. The smell of spent gunpowder still clung to his flight suit, and the leather of his gloves was damp with sweat. He unclenched his hands slowly, feeling the tremor that adrenaline always left behind. His wingmen, Lieutenant Henderson and Sergeant Malone, kept formation silently, eyes forward, their faces taut, reflecting the intensity of what had just occurred. No one spoke. There was no need. Every pilot had felt it. The razor-edge dance between life and death, the brief flash when fate leaned either way. Bong's gaze drifted to the ocean below, deceptively calm, the blue shimmer almost mocking the violence above. The radio crackled. A voice, clipped and anxious, reported other enemy movements, a distant patrol of Japanese aircraft circling far to the west. Bong's jaw tightened. He had survived one of the most dangerous engagements of his career. But war had no pauses, no breathers. The Pacific demanded vigilance, and he knew the fight was far from over. He thought of the pilots he had faced, their youth and skill etched into every maneuver he had countered. Each Zero represented not just a threat, but a human being, fighting for his country. The thought made him swallow hard, a bitter knot forming in his throat. War was a cruel arithmetic. Lives tallied against lives, skill measured against courage. Today, the scales had tipped in his favor, but barely. The P-38 hummed steadily, the twin engines vibrating like twin hearts. Bong adjusted the throttle, feeling the smooth, responsive power of the lightning beneath him. He had flown this plane countless times, yet today it had felt alive in a way almost frightening. An extension of his own body, reacting before thought could catch up. Every dive, roll, and climb had been a negotiation with gravity, speed, and fate itself. Bong's mind replayed the moments. The glint of the first Zero in the sun, the sudden attack from above, the burst of gunfire, the spiraling descent of each enemy plane. He remembered the split-second decisions, the almost instinctual anticipation of enemy maneuvers. Each kill had been precise, almost surgical, yet every one carried weight. Victory was necessary, but the price was etched into memory like scars in the soul. His wingmen began speaking quietly over the radio, recounting minor skirmishes, near misses, and narrowly avoided collisions. Bong listened, offering terse responses, yet his mind remained partly elsewhere. The vast Pacific stretched endlessly below, a mirror to his own conflicted emotions. Relief, exhaustion, pride, and a subtle undercurrent of guilt all mingled in his chest. He thought about his training at Wright Field, the countless hours spent in simulators, the rigorous physical conditioning, and the tactical briefings that had prepared him for moments like this. Yet nothing could prepare a man for the visceral reality of aerial combat. The smell of smoke, the shuddering of metal, the deafening roar of engines, and the fleeting flash of life extinguished. Henderson's voice cut through the haze of thought. "Major, you were incredible out there. 7 kills in one mission. I've never seen anything like it." Bong remained silent, nodding slightly. Praise felt awkward in the cockpit, a small echo in the immensity of the sky. He had done what was required, yes, but it had cost him the peace that other men might take for granted. There was exhilaration, yes, but also a quiet, gnawing awareness that this victory was temporary. Tomorrow could bring a new threat, a new battle, a new brush with death. The squadron began their return flight to base, engine steady, wings slicing through the high-altitude winds. Bong scanned the horizon constantly, vigilant, aware that the calm after battle was often the most dangerous time. The Pacific could shift in an instant. Storm clouds could gather, enemy patrols could appear, and the sky that had been won moments before could become a trap. Below, waves crashed silently against unseen reefs, indifferent to human valor or loss. Bong felt a strange kinship with the ocean, both beautiful and merciless, reflecting the duality of war itself. He thought of the men he had faced, the skills they had displayed, the courage they had summoned, and the suddenness with which life could be extinguished. Reflection was unavoidable. War demanded it. As the sun climbed higher, glinting off the P-38's metallic surfaces, Bong allowed himself a small breath, feeling the tension in his shoulders ease just slightly. Today, he had flown like few men could, fought like few men would, and survived what many would not. Yet even in the moment of relative peace, the lessons of the Pacific remained clear. Sky is unforgiving, enemies are relentless, and every day survived is a temporary gift. He adjusted his headset, listening for updates from base. Reports would flood in soon, praise and documentation. Headlines might call him a hero, yet in the cockpit, with engines humming and the vast ocean below, he felt only the weight of responsibility and the haunting awareness of mortality. The sea stretched endlessly beneath him, the clouds drifting lazily, the sky serene. But Bong knew serenity was fleeting. The Pacific had already claimed countless lives, and it was patient, watching, waiting. He tightened his grip on the controls. The next challenge was always just over the horizon, and in that moment, Major Richard Bong realized that while the fight above the clouds had been won, the war, inside the heart, in the shadows, and across the ocean, was far from over. By the time Major Richard Bong's squadron touched down on the carrier deck, the sun was high, casting sharp reflections on the steel and oil-stained surfaces. The hum of engines faded into a tense stillness, broken only by shouted commands, the clatter of deck crews, and the distant rumble of naval artillery training offshore. Every step Bong took felt weighted, the adrenaline of combat giving way to a different kind of intensity, a mix of relief, exhaustion, and the subtle awareness that history had been made. Deck crews rushed to inspect the P-38, wiping away spent shell casings and assessing the minor shrapnel scars along its fuselage. Bong climbed out of the cockpit, boots thudding against metal plates, and removed his helmet. Sweat streaked his face, goggles fogged and smudged. The smell of aviation fuel, sweat, and salt clung to him, a stubborn reminder that the sky was no longer his alone. Lieutenant Commander Harper, squadron leader, approached quickly, eyes wide with a mixture of awe and urgency. Major Bong, 7 confirmed kills in one mission. Well, I don't have words, he said, voice thick with astonishment. The words themselves felt surreal to Bong. In the moment of combat, there was only the fight. Now praise and documentation swirled around him like a sudden storm, unfamiliar and oddly disorienting. Bong's wingmen offered quiet congratulations, clapping him on the shoulder. He nodded, returning gestures with tight smiles, but inside he felt hollow. The kill count, 7 enemy planes, was a statistic to others, a testament to skill, courage, and luck. To him, it was a tally of lives lost, of brief moments when fate could have easily struck him down. The weight of history pressed heavily against his chest. The carrier commander stepped forward, clipboard in hand, the ceremonial weight of acknowledgement hanging in the air. A photographer snapped photos, capturing Bong in his flight suit, hands still smudged with oil and sweat, eyes intense yet calm. Headlines would soon call him a hero, the Pacific's deadliest ace, but the reality remained raw and private. 7 men would not return to their own homes because of that encounter. Orders came down for immediate debriefing. Bong followed, walking quickly across the deck, every step echoing in the vast open space. Inside the command center, maps, charts, and tactical reports awaited. He pointed at each engagement point over the Pacific, detailing altitude, speed, vectors, and enemy maneuvers. His words were precise, coldly analytical. Every motion, every decision, every kill was documented in exacting detail. Data that would be used to train pilots, to analyze the efficiency of aircraft, and to further the war effort. Yet outside the technicalities, a storm of emotions churned silently. Relief that the day was survived, pride in skill, sorrow for lives extinguished, and the gnawing anxiety that the Pacific had only been quiet for now. Bong glanced at the map, noting clusters of Japanese aircraft carriers still active. They had survived this encounter, and they would not remain idle. War was patient, and it never rested. The debriefing ended. Orders for the next mission were issued. Bong returned to the flight deck, feeling the tension coil once more in his chest. The P-38 Lightning gleamed in the afternoon sun, a testament to engineering, training, and deadly precision. Engineers were already working on minor repairs, but Bong knew he would not have long before he was called to fly again. The Pacific did not wait for rest. Across the carrier, crews whispered about his achievement. Some called him a legend, others muttered disbelief. 7 enemy planes in a single sortie was almost mythic. Bong, however, remained focused, scanning the horizon as if the very ocean might conceal the next threat. Experience had taught him that recognition and celebration were temporary distractions. Survival depended on anticipation, vigilance, and readiness. Evening fell, the sky burning orange and red as the sun dipped toward the horizon. Bong walked to the ship's edge, watching the glimmering waves. In the distance, shadows hinted at vessels and patrol aircraft. Somewhere out there, beyond what he could see, enemies were moving, strategizing, waiting for a chance. The calm surface of the Pacific masked its lethal potential. He thought of the men he had fought that morning. Skill, courage, and youth had collided violently, leaving 7 dead and 1 survivor above the clouds. The taste of victory was mixed with sorrow and the undeniable truth. No one escapes this war unscarred. And though the nation would celebrate his heroics, he knew that each mission carried the same silent, ever-present threat. Bong returned to his quarters, stripping the flight suit, inspecting minor cuts and bruises. Each mark, each sting, was a silent reminder. The sky was beautiful and deadly, fleeting and permanent. He sat for a moment, listening to the carrier hum beneath him, engines, pumps, and distant artillery blending into a constant drone. Sleep might come tonight, but only briefly. Tomorrow would demand readiness again, and the Pacific would be waiting. Outside, waves shimmered under moonlight, the ocean a vast, unyielding witness. Bong clenched his fists slightly, jaw tight, a mixture of resolve and unease in his chest. Recognition could never replace preparedness. Acclaim could never replace vigilance. And the enemy, silent, patient, deadly, was already planning. As night settled, Bong's thoughts remained in the sky, scanning, calculating, anticipating. The war had paused for no one, not even heroes, and somewhere unseen, another threat lurked, waiting to challenge the man who had just made history. Dawn broke with a thin line of gold along the horizon, glinting off the restless Pacific. Major Richard Bong's P-38 Lightning sat ready on the carrier deck, engines humming with impatient energy. The air was crisp, salt-heavy, carrying the scent of fuel and steel. Bong climbed into the cockpit, securing helmet and goggles, fingers brushing the worn leather of the control stick. Every movement was precise, practiced, rehearsed, yet the weight of expectation pressed heavily against him. Today would not be routine. Orders crackled over the radio. Reconnaissance over enemy shipping lanes near Luzon, with potential contact with Japanese fighter patrols. Bong's squadron formed quickly, wings slicing through the morning haze in tight formation. The Pacific stretched endlessly beneath them, waves glittering like fractured glass. The memory of yesterday's engagement lingered, a vivid reminder that survival was never guaranteed, even for the most skilled. Minutes passed in tense silence as they climbed to cruising altitude. Bong's eyes swept the horizon, scanning for glints of metal, movement, or smoke. Each cloud became a potential hiding place for a Zero. Each sunbeam, a deceptive glare. The calm beauty of the ocean was a lie. The Pacific surface was serene, but beneath it, war waited patiently as always. Then, just beyond a stretch of haze, movement. A squadron of Japanese Zeros, smaller, more aggressive than yesterday, rose to intercept. Bong tightened his grip. The sky erupted in chaos as tracers screamed through the air, engines screamed, and planes twisted in impossible maneuvers. The battle was immediate, violent, a lethal dance without warning. Bong banked sharply, feeling the P-38 respond like an extension of his own body. He rolled, climbed, and fired in controlled bursts. One enemy plane spiraled downward in flames. Another dove from above, guns blazing, forcing Bong into a tight, evasive maneuver. The rush of adrenaline hit again, familiar, fierce, and unrelenting. His wingman, Henderson, struggled to maintain formation amid the chaos. "Major! More incoming!" he shouted over the radio. Bong's eyes narrowed. The enemy was coordinated, attacking in waves, learning, adapting. The sky had become a dangerous chessboard. Each move a question of life or death. He banked, rolled, and fired. Smoke trailed from another down zero, a fleeting victory amid the chaos. Suddenly, anti-aircraft fire erupted from below, shrapnel scattering across the sky. The ocean shimmered as explosions sent water spray high into the air. Bong's P-38 shuddered as near misses rattled the fuselage. The combination of enemy fighters and flak made every second a test of nerve and skill. One miscalculation, one delayed reaction, and the Pacific could claim him without mercy. He targeted a lone zero, attempting to flank from above. The nose guns roared, tracers tearing through the sky. The enemy plane spiraled out of control, smoke trailing. Bong pulled up sharply, narrowly avoiding another attack, hard hammering. Every maneuver demanded anticipation, calculation, and instinct. Survival depended on precision as much as courage. Below, naval vessels engaged enemy aircraft in a distant ballet of smoke, fire, and sound. Bong glanced briefly, noting their positions and the impact of flak bursts. Coordination between air and sea was essential. One misstep could result in catastrophic loss. He felt the weight of responsibility, not just for himself, but for the entire squadron, the fleet, and the mission. The enemy regrouped, circling, probing for weaknesses. Bong's eyes burned with focus, tracking speed, angles, and vectors. His finger hovered over the trigger, poised for the next attack. He felt the P-38 respond intuitively to every twitch of the control stick, every subtle shift in wind and altitude. The aircraft and pilot were one, a singular entity against a storm of adversaries. Minutes stretched into an eternity of twisting, diving, and firing. Another zero fell, trailing smoke into the Pacific below. Bong's chest burned from exertion, his arms ached from the constant tension. But his mind remained clear, calculating, precise. One final enemy plane remained, aggressive, determined, but no match for his skill and experience. With a sudden dive, Bong positioned his P-38 behind the last zero. Tracers ripped through the air. Smoke curled. Then the enemy plane rolled, spiraling down toward the ocean. Silence followed, broken only by the roar of his engines and the distant echo of naval artillery. 7 enemy fighters neutralized, the same number as the previous day. The feat was extraordinary, but war was far from over. As he climbed back to altitude, scanning for additional threats, a nagging awareness pressed on him. The Japanese were adapting. Each encounter provided them lessons, and the Pacific was vast, unpredictable, and patient. Today's victories might be tomorrow's losses. Bong's eyes swept the horizon, alert for any sign of new enemy forces or incoming flak. Even amidst the adrenaline and the glory of his skill, a cold thought lingered. Mastery of the skies meant nothing if the war itself remained unyielding. The Pacific could, and would, strike again. He adjusted the throttle, preparing for the long flight back to the carrier, already calculating angles, fuel reserves, and the potential for ambush. Every second counted. Above, the sky was deceptively calm once more, golden sunlight piercing scattered clouds. Below, the ocean shimmered peacefully. Yet Bong knew, as every ace before him had known, that this calm was temporary. The Pacific waited, silent and patient, for the next dance, the next engagement, the next test of skill, courage, and survival. The carrier deck was quiet now, late afternoon sunlight reflecting off steel surfaces, painting long shadows over oil-stained metal. Major Richard Bong leaned against the railing, helmet in hand, sweat-streaked face pale from exertion, but eyes sharp, scanning the horizon. The Pacific stretched endlessly before him, a glittering expanse of beauty and danger, indifferent to human heroism or loss. Today, the sky had borne witness to extraordinary skill, courage, and the deadly precision of one American pilot. News of his achievement had already begun to ripple through the fleet. Word spread quickly. 7 enemy planes downed in a single mission. Fellow pilots whispered in awe. Sailors paused mid-task to stare at the man who had carved his name into history. Officers approached with handshakes, congratulations, and meticulous debrief forms. Bong accepted it all with quiet composure, aware that each smile and each acknowledgement carried the unspoken weight of lives lost in the air. He thought back to the morning of January 11th, 1945, when the sky had erupted in fire and steel. The smell of gunpowder, the roar of engines, the spiraling descent of enemy aircraft, all were etched into his memory. Adrenaline had pushed him beyond the limits of fatigue and fear, instincts and skill melding seamlessly with the P-38 Lightning he trusted with his life. Yet alongside pride was a lingering shadow. War was not heroic in isolation. It was ruthless, unyielding, and always waiting for the next challenge. Bong's mind flicked to his wingmen, Henderson and Malone, who had fought beside him with courage and precision. Their survival, like his own, had been a blend of skill, luck, and the narrowest margins of timing. He thought of the Japanese pilots, skilled and disciplined adversaries, whose lives had ended in the violent ballet above the Pacific. Each encounter reinforced the truth he had always carried. Victory came at a cost. Every kill was both achievement and reminder of mortality. The sun dipped lower, casting orange and red across the sky, the ocean glittering like fractured glass. Bong's reflection shimmered in the water below, merging with the waves, a fleeting, human imprint against the vast, indifferent Pacific. History would remember this mission in terms of numbers, skill, and heroism. Yet for him, the moment was defined equally by focus, fear, and the solemn weight of responsibility. Heroism was never simple. It was survival, precision, and courage in the face of relentless uncertainty. Reports from the squadron command confirmed what everyone aboard already suspected. Major Richard Bong's 7-plane engagement was extraordinary, unprecedented even among the finest American aces. Photographs captured him emerging from the P-38, disheveled yet composed, goggles smeared, leather gloves worn. The images would circulate widely, a visual testament to skill and daring. A story that would inspire both awe and aspiration among future pilots. Yet for Bong, these moments of recognition were fleeting, eclipsed by the knowledge that every sortie carried danger, and every day above the Pacific demanded vigilance. As evening fell, the carrier rolled gently on the waves, engines thrumming quietly below deck. Bong climbed back into the cockpit for a final check, running through pre-flight systems even without immediate orders. Muscle memory guided him, instincts honed by countless hours of flying and combat. Every toggle, every gauge, every lever was familiar, yet he approached each task with the respect it demanded. The P-38 was not just a plane. It was an extension of himself, a partner in life, death, and survival. He thought of history, of the stories that would be told. Young pilots would study his maneuvers, officers would analyze his strategy, and historians would recount the day an American ace shot down 7 enemy planes over the Pacific. Yet for Bong, history was not abstract. It was visceral. The sky, the engines, the smell of burning fuel, the ocean below. These were memory, lesson, and warning all at once. Heroism was as much about endurance and calculation as it was about daring. Night fell, leaving the carrier bathed in pale moonlight. Bong stood at the railing one last time, looking across the endless expanse. Somewhere beneath the waves and beyond the horizon, the war continued. Ships moved silently, patrols scanned the skies, and enemies waited patiently. He exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of every moment, every decision, every life claimed and spared. The Pacific was vast, unforgiving, and eternal. But today, it had borne witness to courage beyond measure. Major Richard Bong, American fighter pilot, ace of the Pacific, had carved his mark in history. 7 enemy planes had fallen under his skill. Yet what endured was more than numbers. It was the quiet demonstration of human precision, courage, and the relentless drive to survive against overwhelming odds. The war continued, as it always did. But above the ocean, in the blue sky above the Philippine Sea, one man had soared and triumphed. And somewhere, in the vastness of the Pacific, the echoes of that battle lingered. Tracers, smoke, and memory merging with the horizon. A testament to bravery, sacrifice, and the relentless human spirit.